Coming up on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show, your boys are back. We are going to break down stock risers, stock fallers. We are going to hit penny stocks, sell me this pen, rookie ROI, all that and more coming up next. What is going on, NBA fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, your favorite draft analyst. My name is Corey Tullivan, and I am here as always with my co-host, Albert Garbage Time Gimp. Albert, how are we doing this fine afternoon?
It's great to be back. Still morning for me here in the East Coast, West Coast.
That's
Do
true.
I know where I live? The West Coast. Great to be back, Corey. Really excited for this one. Our intro music continues to be the absolute best in the game. I get really excited. I feel like I can run through many brick walls, but really, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to talk draft. You know, we've been obviously getting together bi-weekly on the Locked On feed. But when we come here and we come home, the No Ceilings feed, this is the place in our hearts that gets us so excited to talk ball. So let's get into our stock risers and stock fallers. Let's keep it positive. Open up the show for everybody watching live. We appreciate you. If you're listening to the replay, we equally appreciate you. So we're going to start out talking some NBA draft stock risers for the class of 2026. Albert, who has been your stock riser?
I actually wanted to. So my stock riser is somebody who I want to give Tyler Rucker of No Ceilings some credit here. He's been putting up. I mean, the man lives on the internet. He is putting up tweets all the time on X, and he did one recently about Joshua Jefferson, and he highlighted his playmaking. And so, you know what? After watching his little compilation, I was like, you know what? This might be a really good person to talk about in terms of stock up, because Joshua Jefferson is having himself a very nice season, right? And I wanted to talk a little bit about his game, why he's interesting. And so I'll get right into it, Corey. I think with Joshua Jefferson, the thing that I like is he's this like kind of almost like a 90s style, big body guy, downhill driver. I feel like he shows good patience on his drives with like good footwork. He's not ever going to blow by you with like lightning quickness. But his size and strength and like his physique really kind of helps him create advantages for himself. Something that I noticed is if he's attacking the rim and the defender is kind of like level with him, it's a 0% chance that defender is going to get in front of him again. He's so good at using his shoulders and his strength to kind of seal his man off. And then he's just got like pretty much a straight line drive to the rim. So I've enjoyed that aspect of his game. Obviously, he's got like a back to the basket game. That's pretty nice. The way that I comped him, though, is I thought of him like on the next level. He could be like a slightly more mobile, and he's maybe like an inch shorter. Excuse me, a little bit more mobile, like Kyle O'Quinn type of player.
Okay.
And the reason why I made that comp, I know, like, I think with Kyle O'Quinn, everyone has this like memory of him being like pretty slow and pretty ground bound. I think the thing with Jefferson that I like comp him to Kyle O'Quinn is the passing. Kyle O'Quinn was such a good passer and a guy that you can like, and this was like early 2010s, whatever, right? Like you kind of threw the ball to Kyle O'Quinn in the mid post, and then he could just kind of be your hub for like 8 minutes of the game, right? And I think with Joshua Jefferson, if you watch him in the compilation that Tyler Rucker put up, it's his passing is sweet. Like it is really nice.
Standout.
Oh man, the way he processes, like really fast processing, he passes with real creativity and anticipation. He's one of these guys that's like really reading his teammates and anticipating where they're going to be, and then just like perfectly slotting the ball where, kind of like in soccer. Corey used to be a soccer coach, like a perfectly threaded through ball. Yeah. He's really good at those. Like loves finding cutters. Really good at like the backdoor bounce pass. Also, the thing that I like about him, grab and go ability, right? Off a
Mhm.
rebound, there's a desire to push the pace, to get the ball up the floor, bring the ball up himself, and find open shooters and cutters. There's a there's an unselfishness that is really interesting about him, but then also his ability to go and get a bucket for himself with his strength. Now, I do think there are some like athletic limitations for him on the next level, right? As you reach the 1% supreme athletes. But I think there's enough there with him, with how strong and able and talented he is, that he's going to find a nice niche in the NBA. And I think, especially with the passing, and we see it now in the NBA core, we have a lot of big dudes who can pass the ball and bring a lot of value to their teams, aka three-time MVP Nikola Jokic, right? He had
Yeah.
the area, and I'm not comping Joshua. I comped him to Kylo Quinn, right? But there is a value to a big guy like him who can score, but can also pass the ball. He's shooting the three a little bit as well, too. But I thought Joshua Jefferson was an interesting guy to talk about and an interesting name to monitor for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he does have that back to the basket game, but I think he's got more perimeter game than Kylo Quinn. So how about like a Kyle Anderson type guy, maybe who can like? I think he's a little more mobile, less slothy than Kyle Anderson. Um, but he beats you with like the skill, the poise, the patience. He's not going to blow by and create advantages that way. But he most certainly is like really capable of taking you off the bounce from the perimeter and then just like spraying the ball everywhere. He's always been a good passer. He's always been somebody who's like popped up in any kind of like statistical query for like a forward prospect over the last few years because he's so well rounded, which is one of the things that makes him so interesting. But this year, his playmaking, like his assist percentage has jumped from his sophomore year, it was 17.5%. Junior year, 19.6%. This year, it's 29%. So even sharing the playmaking duty with Lipsy at Iowa State, he's been able to make this jump as a playmaker, which has made him really interesting. So if you're getting like a Boris Diawy, Kyle Anderson, Kyle O'Quinn kind of player, it's a really good role guy at the next level. And somebody that like you always take in the first round, maybe even the top 20, right? We know that these older guys just historically don't always get picked, in the lottery, especially when they don't have like the crazy physical tools. Right. And like he's got the body and the length and the skill, but he doesn't have like a ton of vertical pop, right? He's much more winning with that modern feel that we see. And maybe, we slowly see this shift at some point where teams start realizing it's better to just bet on the guys we know are going to be good. Because, I think when we look back, this is one of the guys I definitely bet on to be one of the top 20 players in this draft class. But his value is probably going to be more in that 20 to 30 range. And I think he could really outplay it. But 3 steal percentage, 3.7 block percentage, like he's just so well-rounded. And, like the shooting, is always kind of been the question with him is like, where can he get to? Shooting 5 threes per 100 possessions this year, which at his position is okay with his play style, but up to 39% around there. The last few years, he's been around 75% from the free throw line. So he's like an adequate enough shooter. One of the things watching his film that's been interesting is watching his ISO game evolve. And it hasn't always been successful where the shots aren't dropping, but he's getting to like this little mid-range area. And similar to, our conversations with Nate Ament, where like he can't always turn the corner with his speed. So he kind of has to like settle for shots in the in-between. There's a little bit of that. He's more comfortable using his power and his force than Nate is. But like he'll use his skill and he'll get into these little like turnaround, like 16, 17 footers. And they look good. They don't always go in, but they're like interesting enough to make you go, is there like a little more shot creation there? Than might be like shown here like consistently. So I don't know. He's definitely a guy that I look at and go, well, the Thunder have 4 picks and he'll probably be one of them. Like, because he fits I feel like the thresholds of guys that he looks like. And if I can ask myself this question about a player is, would Sam Presti and company like this player? then maybe I should like that player more.
No, I agree, Corey. I 100% agree. I think, you mentioning like the 16, 17 footer. It's like, yeah, like very kind of old school to him too, right? Like it used to be a very popular shot for 6'8", 6'9" power forwards, right? But I think and you said it, there's a well-roundedness to his game that makes him so appealing, and especially the range that you talked about, like 20 to 30. That it feels like a steal, right? And a guy and we always get these guys in that round. It's like, how did he go there, right? Who's a good one for that? Like Quentin Grimes, right? How did he go 25, right? And he's playing so well for the Sixers. But I think with Jefferson, he could definitely be that type of player. And he's just it's just like when you turn on his film, it's hard to not have a good time because he's doing so many different things. And a lot of it is like aesthetically really nice to look at as well. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jefferson. He's, I think, predictably one of the risers. We knew his production was going to be there. He's got a large sample of that. I like that call out. He's, somebody that definitely deserves mainstream buzz because, he's been solid all these years and somehow he's still making improvements as players do. And Iowa State has been phenomenal this year. So great call out. My riser is a guy that I think a lot of people still have. I've seen some conversations online. There's still a bit of skepticism, but especially after seeing him in a college context in person, Darius Acuff has risen for me. And look, I understand the skepticism. It's harder than ever for guards that are sub 6'4", 6'5" to carve out roles, like starter roles in the NBA, unless you have like special tools. And Acuff might, like, his playmaking and ball security combination. Now, I know there's a lot of kind of how tall is he? How tall isn't he? I stood close enough to him when I saw him play against the Cougars of Houston that I could have punched him in the face if I so inclined. I would never do that, obviously. But that's how close I was. And I looked at him. I was like, I'm not a human tape measurer, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is exactly how tall he is. But he looks like he's at least close to his listing. I think one of the reasons he might look a little smaller is I feel like maybe his posture is not the best. Like sometimes he just feels a little like shoulders kind of forward, but he's a big, strong dude, carries himself like with that kind of Derrick Rose demeanor of just like, now their games are not similar because Derrick Rose, like outside of like the quickness that I think he shares with Acuff, just an absolute freak vertical athlete. But the demeanor, Derrick Rose was always stoic and quiet and focused. And that's like the approach that I think Acuff has. But his game is just like he gets to wherever he wants. His first step is lightning quick. He's got this like mid-air hang time body control that's really impressive when he gets to like his floater. He's finishing at the rim. I know people had questioned that, but he was a good finisher his senior year at IMG. Now he's not like super explosive vertically where he's going to yam, but I do like the fact that even though he's a quote unquote like below the rim finisher, that I think he has avenues to be effective. The three ball has been like really on point this year. He's like 44-ish%, something like that. I have him right now at 10. Now there are defensive concerns that I have for sure. He's not going to be somebody who is like super versatile where he can guard up and down the spectrum. He's not somebody who even at his position, I think projects to be like one of the better defenders. Like I think he can get caught on screens. I think sometimes he can kind of get lost on ball, but I do think that he puts in effort and I think he can like kind of be disruptive where he can get low and move and guard like full court. With teams that are starting to press more. So obviously there's a lot of season left to be played. He's, going into a tough conference where he's going to have to do it on a nightly basis, but he is been really, 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 really good this year. And I think coming from, hey, let's temper our expectations for this kind of player, which is, which was more in vogue in like the early 2000s potentially. Let's temper them. And then now it's given him the opportunity, I think, to rise, to prove that, okay, what he did in high school is translatable. And for me, one of the reasons I feel comfortable with him, and you could look at this player that I'm about to send a comp to, because I'm not using it as a comp, like to compare their game stylistically 1-to-1, but like, I don't see any reason why he can't be at least as successful as, now I'm blanking on the name, North Carolina 2020 draft, Cole Anthony. Like, I don't see, like, Cole Anthony has carved himself out a niche in the NBA.
Yeah.
He maybe wasn't the number one prospect kind of guy that he was in high school coming in, but like, there's no reason that I think that whether it's a starter role, bench role, as a spark plug kind of organizer, that he can find success in the league. So to me, like, I've really loved what I've seen from Acuff.
Yeah. Corey, I love that. And there are a lot of really successful small guards in the league right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cole Anthony. He brings a lot of value. Peyton Pritchard, lots of value for the Celtics. Some of the things that I wanted to say. Man, the shooting, Corey, you mentioned 44.3% from three on the season. 5 attempts. It's pretty good. Advanced stats that I really like. I think he's at 33. I just want to make sure. 33.6% assist percentage, 11% turnover percentage. Good. He's doing a good job, right?
Great ratio from your ball dominant guard.
It's very good. Very good. Shooting splits 49.4, 44.3, 72.5, 18 points against and 6 assists per game. He's having a good season, Corey. You mentioned it. He jumped up your board. He jumped up mine a ton on the latest big board I just submitted actually this morning. I have him at 11. So yeah, he's moved up a ton for me. I think before this, he was in like the 20s or 30s. So I'm with you. He's been really impressive. I think he's been more interesting than I thought he was going to be heading into the season. Credit to him for that.
There is a path where it goes pretty wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure. But all we can do is based off of what we've seen so far. And he's been really good. And he's had a really nice 5-game stretch too. Had a good game against Houston as well in that loss. But yeah, a guy that I think is going to be one to monitor, because it's like my mind is like, up to this point in the season, he's had a good one. If he has an even better second half, then what are we talking about? But then also it could get worse, right? Conference play, all that
It
stuff.
could.
So,
yeah, it could.
It's tricky,
I mean, the shot, I've enjoyed it. The three start dropping a little bit.
Come back to earth.
Yeah, he comes back to earth there a little bit. It's potentially you could see that, but I think that like the playmaking stuff, the decision making, the ability to get to the rim, create a paint touch, I think that all is going to be consistent with or without the jumper falling. And specifically with the jumper, the thing that's impressed me is not only that he's hitting it at such a high clip, but his ability to play off the ball pretty seamlessly as well, and play off of guys. Because that was one of my concerns, like how much is Wagner as kind of upperclassman going to be allowed to rock out and kind of carry the offense. Malik Thomas is a guy who I think has done a good job playing more off the ball, but I was worried about how many on-ball reps he would get. They just had a lot of guys where I go, how much maybe he has to play too much off the ball and it doesn't work. But he's done a great job with that. Is there a prospect that you've kind of come down on since we've last done this exercise?
I was kind of dreading this part of the conversation just because the player that I chose that I want to speak about today, I'm not surprised by the fact that he's kind of having a down freshman season. Well, there you have it. It's a freshman, everybody.
Yeah.
We were kind of, so Corey, when we did our preseason pod on him, I think both of us, we were kind of like, I really hope this doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. And it's kind of happened for him. And the guy that I want to talk about today is Shon Abaev from Cincinnati. Look, heading into the season, Corey, I think you and I were very excited about him after watching his OTE stuff and seeing him at Hoop Summit, whatever, we were kind of like, hey, this guy's an absolute bucket. He's got good size. That size is going to cover up some of the defensive deficiencies with him. We felt like, there was some more passing stuff to him that, he wasn't getting all the credit for, blah, blah, blah. But we also had some concerns about shot selection. We had some concerns about him forcing things. We had some concerns about, him not being like an elite athlete, also not having like elite touch. And pretty much every single concern that we had has kind of come to fruition. And he's had a very, very tough season. I think the biggest thing, Corey, that stuck out to me is that he's really forcing right now. And because he's forcing so hard, even his jumper, he's aiming his shot. Like you can see that like the gears in his head are turning so hard right now because he wants to figure things out and he wants to be great. And I want to give him credit for that. Like he obviously wants to live up to like that billing of being this like highly regarded freshman coming into the Cincinnati program, wanting to do a ton. But it's to the point where like he's even missing like wide open jumpers like really badly. And it's tough. And some of the other things that I want to highlight that have been unfortunate, but once again, it's not his death sentence. I still like the player and the talent, but some of the ball security with him, I think we talked about that too in his preseason thing, where like his handle isn't always the tightest, and there are times he can get a little bit loose. And where it gets loose and dangerous is because he kind of lacks strength too. So if he's getting guarded by like a stronger, peskier defender, that ball insecurity could become an issue. And we've seen that. Some of his drives to the rim, because of the lack of strength, he's kind of getting pushed off his path, not the cleanest takes, lack of athleticism, lack of the elite touch that we talked about, some pretty ugly misses at the rim. I think overall for me, Corey, where I feel like I hope he settles down a little bit is what I'm hoping for, because the talent is still there with the guy. He's a very talented player. I just think he's pressing right now, and he really wants this to work, and he wants to be great, and he wants to be this like great success for Cincinnati, but it's getting into his head, and it's causing him to play ugly is how I feel right now, Corey. Like I was watching his film, and that's literally wrote on my notes. He's playing ugly, and it's not him. And a lot of the shots that he's forcing up there are just really hideous shots. And I just feel I felt sad about it because I think I had him in my top 10 heading into the preseason. And I was like, I think there's a chance here where he can go off and score a ton while also like being creative with his passing and like, walk away from his freshman season as this like really interesting wing prospect with like all these facets to his game. And it's just right now, I think he's just pressing too hard, and it has not been pretty, and I feel sad about it. But once there's always a but, I'm hoping for things to turn around, a better second half. I'm still holding out, hope for him, but it has not been a pretty freshman season for Shon Abaev.
No, and Shon this was my choice as well for Stockfaller. Yeah. Because I felt the same way. I first noticed him at Basketball Without Borders, watching that film. Then I got a chance to see him in a practice setting at an Under Armour event. And I was like, oh man, he's like one of the best players here. Like, if not the best player, Kareem Lopez was there. And he's, this big shot creator who looked fluid in transition. But we knew that this was a potential outcome for him this year because, he was never shy to let it fly. Like, this dude was going to get shots up. And when the shots go in, you're like, oh my God, like 6'8", 6'9" dude who could pass and make those kind of tough shots. But the problem with guys who can make those kind of tough shots is sometimes they like taking those tough shots too. And he takes a lot of tough shots that, like you said, end up looking a little bit ugly when, because it's just not the kind. It's very early 2000s hero ball.
Yeah.
And it's not the kind of stuff that translates to winning at the next level. That's not to say that there's not a pathway for Shon to develop into that, because I still think there is, and he's going to be a pro at some point in his career, but he's a guy who needs to definitely go back to school, get stronger, learn how to hone in his efficiency. That way he can leverage that scoring to turn into this cool kind of hybrid big wing playmaker. Because right now, if he were to come out I don't know, like your hope is that he looks like Justin Edwards, who like, I don't know. I don't know that it's too early for him. He just needs to hone it. He needs to learn how to play off other guards better, and just get better shots, and like you said, let the defense improve and mature, because his size is something you can't teach in concert with his ability to hit shots. It really needs to come together.
Yeah. Yeah, Corey. I'm sad about it. I do feel like if he comes out, it'll be like almost like a Zaire Williams type of situation where
Yeah,
coming
it's a
out
good
too
call.
early, and he should have stayed in school and should have worked on stuff. But I think overall, I think you and I, we were very high on him. I can't like forget or shake our pot on him because we were both so optimistic. But it's funny because we had laid out all these concerns that we had, and I just didn't think all of them would happen, like maybe a couple, but every single one has hit. So it's like, damn, you really are having like the season from hell, in terms of what could have gone wrong in terms of your freshman season. But I think both of us still big believers in the talent, just think he needs more time.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes time. And with that said, it is time to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with some penny stocks. All right, Albert, we are back. We are going to talk penny stock sleepers from the 2026 NBA draft. So, Albert, hit me. Who is your penny stock of the week?
Okay, so my penny stock of the week is a guy who we've known for some years now, Corey. A guy who has just needed some time to develop, kind of like a Shon Abaev, right? Not same player, but he just needed some time. Highly regarded as a freshman. Some thought he might come out, but I think everyone knew he wasn't. Then sophomore year, he got a little bit better, and the people were like, "Oh, could he come out?" But no, he decided to come back for a third season. I'm talking about Kwame Evans, KJ Evans from Oregon.
Let's go.
I wanted to talk about Kwame because I think he's really starting to figure out who he wants to be, and what he needs to do to be effective on the basketball court. It's his third season. Every season, he's getting better, right? The numbers look better. The eye test is getting better every single year. The thing that stood out to me the most that I really wanted to kind of pinpoint about his development, Corey, is that it seems to me that he's playing a more direct brand of basketball. Like I mentioned, like he knows himself better now. He knows like how he belongs on the court. He just seems way more confident in himself, way more confident in his body, way more confident in his game. I feel like his freshman season, sophomore year, you get these moments where he's kind of like dilly-dallying, not really sure what to do, have the ball in his hands. He's kind of like lost out on the perimeter. And I think now like things are clearing up for him a little bit more. And like he's setting good, like I think he's setting better screens this season. He's diving off of them better, popping, like, because ultimately, I think the type of player he's going to be on the next level is he's not going to be your prototypical bruising big. That's just not his game, I think, right? But I think the reason why KJ Evans is going to bring value in the NBA is that there's like just enough variance and versatility to his game to make defenses like think about him a little bit, right? Especially when he's screening. I think obviously, as I mentioned, right, like him rolling to the rim and being a finisher there, also him being like a pop, pick and pop shooter, shooting off the catch. I think that'll be good. And then also he's always had like a little passing to his game, right?
Oh yeah, he can pass.
Yeah, and he's always had a hold on. I want to make sure I'm reading this right. Yeah, highest assist percentage of his career so far at 18%. Also 23% defensive rebounding percentage, so he's closing out possessions. I just feel like his game is going to be like a guy you bring in off the bench. He's going to be like 6'10", 6'10 and a half ish, right? He'll set good screens. He's going to roll off of them, or he's going to pop off of them. He's going to give you some variation there. If they come up high, right? They meet at the level, and you kind of slip him a little pass to be a creator from the top. He can do some stuff with the ball in his hands a little bit, and he can pass it. I think there are some interesting things to his game, but the reason why he's like a penny stock for me is that, like, after his freshman and sophomore year, like, I think a lot of people kind of forgot about him and was kind of like, yeah, he's in his third year at Oregon. Like, what's he going to be? But I just want to give him a lot of props for kind of finding himself on the basketball court, and he's playing a better, brand of basketball or simplified
Mhm.
game while also showing versatility and showing some complexities that I think will make him interesting to NBA teams, especially as like a rotational big. I'm not saying you should grab Kwame Evans with a first round pick lock, anything like that, but dude, if he keeps playing this way and gets even better throughout the season, continues to develop, why can't he go in the late 20s? Right? Like, I think it's very possible. Not to say that I would do that, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, there's a world where that happens. And yeah, like I think he's always going to have his limitations in terms of like lacking strength and athleticism, blah, blah, blah. But as a bench big who can come up and kind of mix things up for you and bring a ton of versatility offensively, I think that's like an easy second round guy for me that I would feel great about taking, and that I would like to develop and have him be like an actual like second or third big on my roster is how I would view him.
Yeah, Kwame's a guy we could have talked about in the opening segment of stock risers.
True.
I'm surprised that he hasn't gotten a ton of love yet. This is a good time to call him out because I'm going to see him in a couple of days, uh, which I'm excited for. He's made some pretty big strides this year as far as his consistency and his production. I mean, he's doubled, over doubled, his BPM. I mean, he's always been a really positive like stock percentage guy. He's a 2 steal, 4 block this year. You mentioned his high assist rate. He rebounds. He hits on both sides of the glass. He's knocking down 34% of his threes this year, which is, a pretty big jump. And if he could do that consistently, that's like something that's a really positive trend. He's getting to the line a ton. He's got I mean, this was the case last year. So last year, free throw rate of 66.2, this year, 68.5. So he is shooting a ton of free throws, given his possessions. And, he's hitting 80% of them this year. Five attempts a game, 80%. That's a good number for a guy like him. And he's also he's funky because I broke down film with him after his freshman season. And one of the things he told me was he's like, because a lot of his finishes are with his right hand, but he's a lefty. And he's like, well, I'm a righty, where he shoots with his left hand. He's like, well, I'm a righty. I just shoot with my left hand. So it kind of throws people off. So he's got this funk to his game that's a little unorthodox, but he's got great size. He's got great versatility. He's super skilled. And if he keeps this up, like you said, he's a guy that I think is going to get into that 20 to 30 conversation, because he's a guy who was a high RSCI guy in high school. Like, this is a guy who was super talented, was a potential one and done. It just took a little bit of time. This is an awesome call out. Awesome call
I,
out. I love Kwame.
I appreciate it, Corey. And I think just the last thing, I'm like, I also like wondered, like coming into his freshman season, I kind of comped him. I was like, oh, dream, possibility. What if he's like Lamar Odom?
Yeah.
But also like, what if he's like, I don't know, like
Then he was Ben Simmons.
I know. But what if he's like a David Lee type?
Oh,
Like, what if
yeah.
he's that type, right? Where maybe he's a little bit longer than David Lee, not
Yeah,
as
better
athletic, but you get what I
defensively.
mean. Yeah, like they're a little bit more like some of that type where he's going to be like really productive. And you mentioned the funk, like David Lee was a great offhand finisher. Maybe there's some of that to his game, just really productive, big to your rotation. Maybe it won't make an all-star team like David Lee did, but you get what I'm saying. I think
Yeah,
it could
that's
be
cool.
interesting. Yeah.
That's a cool call out. I like that one. Yeah. Very interesting player there. I'm going to go with another junior forward who we did a preseason pod on when he was transitioning from high school to college. My penny stock is Virginia Tech's Amani Hansberry. You know, he's another guy that I'm shocked has not gotten like as much love as I feel like he should be getting. Made a big jump this year, and maybe people are just being patient, waiting for conference play. He's averaging 16 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.7 steals, 1 block. Just raw numbers this year. 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, 9.4 BPM, 55.5 true shooting. So, the efficiency has improved a lot, which has always been something he struggled with. But he's getting there. 12% offensive rebound, 19 defensive rebound, 19 assist, 3 steal, 3.6 block. He's another one of these kind of do it all, like power forwards. I love his like defensively. He's playing a lot of like 5'2", where he's kind of has to be like their primary guy at the rim, which he can handle. He's playing bigger guys, kind of guarding in the post that are kind of giving him, or that are mismatched, quote unquote, because they're bigger than him, and he's handling that. I love his ability to slide and use his length and strength on the perimeter. Like, he can really get low and long in a stance. And then offensively, I think he's such a crafty, slick passer. And we've talked about a few of these. We talked about Kwame. We talked about Joshua Jefferson. Like, I think Amani Hansberry is in this conversation too, of these guys who are just such slick passers, who can operate out on the perimeter, hit guys on cuts, pass to the spot. And then, he shoots enough threes that it allows him to close, to attack closeouts. The threes don't drop at the rate you want them to, but he's always been willing. And this year he's actually dialed back on the 3-point attempts a little bit, but there's still enough that he's not just like a liability out there. So I think, like, Avdalas is the guy who is going to get all the love from Virginia Tech, but I think Hansberry is super underrated. I have him in my first round. I've loved what I've seen from him. I think his combination of defense, playmaking, like, is pretty special. And so, yeah, Amani Hansberry, shout out to him. He's my penny stock sleeper.
I like the call out, Corey. I think we talked about Hansberry on our Locked On pod recently too, right?
Potentially, yeah. I'm sure he probably came up in conversation.
Maybe.
Oh, you know what? We did the mock, and I took him at the end. Yeah.
We talk a lot, so sometimes. But no, Corey, to your point, like, I think with him, also like the fact that he's playing on his third team in 3 years.
Yeah.
But he's really productive this season. Even in his last 2 games, Corey, 17 and 15, 20 and 14.
Yeah. And he played 51 minutes in a triple overtime win against Virginia the other day. So, like,
good.
It's good stamina on that dude.
Yeah. But a really interesting guy. And like, I feel like if you're going to be like a 6'8", you got to be interesting. And he is. And he absolutely is. And I think that it's a great call. I'm excited to see how the rest of the year goes with him. But man, another guy that we did his pod maybe like 2-3 years ago, right, Corey?
Yeah. When he was after his high school season, like that summer in between the high school season and the college season.
Yeah. I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him. I hope he continues this season, because I remember that pod, we were really excited about him back then too. So
we were. And I'm hoping that he generates a little bit of buzz, keeps this up heading into conference play. If he can keep this up in conference play, I think he could be a guy that we put in the conversation this year. Now, again, we talk about there's so much money in college sports now, especially for these older guys who are like ready to produce. So, there's a lot to weigh for prospects that are on the fringe, and he still has his senior year ahead of him, similar to Kwame. So I think they're kind of in the same boat as far as the decision that they make, because there's going to be a lot of guaranteed money in this situation thrown at them. But they're 2 guys that I think are potential radar guys for sure. So let's take another break, and then we're going to come back with Sell Me This Pen. All right, Albert, we are back. It's time. Sell Me This Pen. Sell Me This Pen is a conversation where Albert and I try to elevator pitch each other on guys that we're having a little bit of trouble with in figuring out. So, Albert, I need you to sell me this pen on North Carolina's Henri Veesar.
I want to stay true to the exercise and make it elevator pitch. So I'm going to keep this part short, and then I'll get into the breakdown. Mr. Tulaba, GM of the Chicago Bulls, I'd like to sell you on a player named Henri Veesar, a legit 7-footer playing for the University of North Carolina. He's shown great synergy with one of the top 5 prospects in this class, Caleb Wilson. I think the reason why you'll be interested in him is as a legit 7-footer, he's big and he can finish around the rim. He can pass the ball a little bit, and he's got some offensive versatility because of his ability to shoot the outside ball. Currently on the season, he is 50% from three on 2.6 attempts per game. Not huge volume, but when you watch him, it's there. And the reason why it makes sense for your team, Mr. Tulaba, is that you have um, you have a need for a big who can play in two big lineups, who can be your sole big in a lineup. He may not be the most mobile center or the most defensively adept center, but he's big enough, and he will protect the rim enough. Um, but here, let me go back to his strength. He can shoot, he can pass a little bit, and he's a good rebounder. So you may not be drafting him to be like your starting center, but as a backup, he could be a phenomenal option for your Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I like Veesar. But I know that some people, it almost, are hitting the love button on him. And I'm struggling to get there just because I look at him, he's tall. I like his ability to stretch the floor a little bit. Sometimes the passing's interesting. There are times he has these funky drives, attacking closeouts. He's been efficient around the rim, and like that stuff's all good. I want more rim protection from my big, and he's just never been that. I mean, he redshirted his sophomore year. He had a 6 block percentage his freshman year, 6 block percentage his junior year, and then it's at 3.6% this year. He doesn't get a ton of steals this year. He's sub 1% steal percentage thus far. And I just don't know what the defensive impact looks like at the next level because he's kind of skinny. He's older, so I don't know what the frame actually adds, right? He's listed at on Sports Reference, he's listed at 7 foot, 200 pounds. Like, that is frail. And I just think that this is actually turning out to be a pretty deep, big class. Not maybe with the high end talent that you want, right? But the depth of it, it seems like there's if you could convince some of them to come out, there could be a pretty good amount. And I don't know, with Veesar, he doesn't have the girth. He doesn't, I don't feel the defensive impact, and the offensive stuff is cool, but to me, he's a bench big. And that's fine. But, I think some of the talk about him, maybe getting taken, in the 20 range, for me, it's just early. And this is, I mean, look, I could be wrong. He could very much so just come in and be awesome as a pro and get stronger and make an impact defensively. We talked about Amani Hansberry. I took him at 28 on the lockdown mock that we did, right? We all have our preferences. And if you tell me that Veesar is going to be more impactful than Hansberry at the next level, I'll go, okay, yeah, I see that. I understand that perspective. But for me, I would love to take him in the second round. Last year, I felt good having Kalkbrenner in the first round, and he just had way more going for him than I feel like Veesar had. And I feel like there was a lot of skepticism with Kalkbrenner, and I think he was a way, way better prospect. But yeah, I think Veesar is cool, but to me, I would struggle to take him in the first.
Yeah, I mean, Corey, a lot of how you described your feelings about Veesar is how I feel about Adaimara. But that's also my own personal experience of really struggling with Adaimara. But okay, so I mean, what you said is a lot of what my elevator pitch was. The not great at rim protecting stuff is important. He's got some really clunky feet, which I'm not a big fan of. Also not a great vertical athlete either, but I mean, he's 7 foot, so not a big deal, I guess. But
he's big. He's a tall dude.
Yeah, but when he gets switched on to a small, it's it's, as Tyler Kolek would say, it's barbecue chicken. Over. It's straight up over. But also I wonder, Corey, if his block percentage has gone down a little bit because what if Caleb is just swallowing all that up?
True.
Owning all that, so maybe Veesar is just kind of walling up and then Caleb's just deleting stuff. So maybe like he deserves a small percentage of whatever Caleb's got. But now I get it, and I'm with you. Like for me, I would feel great about taking Veesar at like 35 or 46 and be like, dude, come in, take your time to develop and become like either a backup big for us, or like maybe in 2-3 years you'll like beef up enough to be like our starting center. But I would feel great about him in that range rather than 25 is how I feel as well. So
yeah. Okay. So who do you need me to sell?
So it's not that I dislike this player. I currently on my latest big board, I have him at 15, so plenty high. Plenty high. But I would like to kind of get your pitch on Labaron Philon, just because before I give my spiel, I want to hear your thoughts, Corey, on Labaron Philon.
Okay, Labaron Philon, sophomore guard from Alabama, made a major leap this year. Questions about his shooting so far, he's answered it. Upped his shooting from 3 from 31.5% last year to 42.2% on nearly 10 threes per 100 possessions this year. Another question, finishing at the rim. He's finishing at the rim this year. So he's been highly efficient compared to last year. Then there's the playmaking leap that he's taken. Nearly 38 assist percentage on a 30.7% usage, only 14 turnover percentage. So he takes care of the ball. He makes plays. I saw him live against St. John's this year, and he was able to get into the paint at will. He dictated the tempo. He dictated the pace. He created a paint touch whenever. He could spray the ball out, make every play. And with these improvements to his shot and to his finishing, this is a player that has very few holes, is my sell. Now, where my questions can start is he a 42% three-point shooter? Personally, I don't think so. I think his free throw percentage has gone down this year. He's in the low 70s free throw percentage. I think he's probably closer to what his career percentage is right now, which is 35%. So I think he's more of a league average type three-point shooter than, this 42.2% on threes on 10 threes per 100 possessions that include a ton of dribble jumpers. It's not like he's just getting easy catch and shoots, like he's creating these shots. If this is where he's shooting and you think this is the direction, this is the kind of shooter he's turned himself into, then yeah, this is a guy that you take, up there and you start going, okay, Acuff, Philon, Michael Brown, Kingston Fleming, you have that conversation if you think he's really this level of shooter. He gets after it defensively, right? He gets in you. He can guard full court. He can guard in the half court. He's pesky. He's long. I think the finishing is probably legit improved. I do. Because seeing him in person, seeing him move that way, so quick. Like, just moved at a different speed. It was really impressive seeing him in person next to his contemporaries. Like, he's really, really hard to stay in front of. Like, he's got that tight handle with the speed, really impressive. And he's still like, you look at him and you go, he's skinny, but he's got that wiry, strong frame. So I really like him. I kind of want to see him develop more of like, and Alabama doesn't play this way, so I don't think you would see it. But like, if he had that Chris Paul, Braden Smith kind of elbow jumper that he can get to consistently and kind of really hone in on the ability to not just use his speed, but to really just pick apart defenses with his playmaking at this really nuanced level, I think, that would take his game up even higher. So I like Philon a lot. You said you have him at 15, which is right on the border of the lottery. I have him in my lottery. I think he's awesome. It's just, how awesome do we think he is? Alabama's played, tough schedule. So he's doing it against real competition. I think he's got an impressive game for sure.
Okay. I mean, that's a great sell, Corey. And once again, like, if I have him at 15, clearly I don't hate the player. I just I think my biggest thing was, I think the shooting is going to come down to earth. me personally, I can't see him being a 42% 3-point shooter right now. Just from my eye test and from what we saw last season. However, I've been wrong before. And if he keeps this up the rest of the season, then to your point, Corey, we're talking about him in the top 10. We have to, with the way that he's playing and the influence that he has, the production that he has this season to go with, all the physical traits that he has. Like, there's so much to like. It's just I straight up wanted to bring it to you because you being our resident shot doctor, I just wanted to know if you believed the shooting would hold up. And I think I'm with you where I think he'll end up being, I actually even wonder if like he actually ends up like low 30s, is kind of where my head was at, but I could be wrong.
It's
And if he ends up,
no, it's there's it. I think it could swing that way for sure. I mean, I guess initially we were like thinking, okay, we've seen this kind of guy. If the shot's not there, interesting set of tools, gonna stick around for a long time. But is it Elfrid Payton-y? I don't remember who it was. Shout out to them online. I saw somebody comp him potentially to Reggie Jackson. And I thought that was kind of interesting because Reggie Jackson was somebody who could definitely make shots and get hot and do all that. I think Philon's probably a better passer. But as far as role, like even if his role ultimately just ends up being like microwave guy off the bench for good teams, really a lot of value in that. Guy who could set the table, play fast, guard, change of pace, and get to the rim. I mean, it's easy for me to see a path for him, even if he doesn't hit his top end outcome.
Yeah. And the not top end outcome that you're describing is maybe like a really, really good 6-man.
Yeah.
First guard off your bench, back up to your point guard. Like that offers a ton of value as well. So if that's like his lower end outcome, it's a good player. So
yeah,
I think he's going to be a good one. I just didn't know how you felt about his shooting, but overall, let's see if he can keep it up. Then he deserves to be really high up there.
I think it looks good up top. There's some stuff at the lower body that I'm sure he can iron out or whatever. But hey, he's clearly working hard at it because the shot, 42.2%, like that jump. This is not a Donovan Dent situation where he was taking like 1-3 a game maybe or less. Like he's really getting him up at volume. And he had a couple of shots when I saw him in person against St. John's, like these step backs. Like he hit one to ice the game, but he hit one at the end of the first half that really kind of gave him momentum and got him going. That I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So he's really taken some strides this year that have impressed me a lot. And I mean, the raw production, 22 points, 5.5 assists, 3.6 rebounds. It's not easy to score 20 points a game consistently night in, night out. It's not. I know there's a section of, draft scouting, Twitter, internet that doesn't like to use like raw points, rebounds, assists. But like, dude, it's hard to average 22 points. Like to be able to do that night in, night out. It's not hard to score 20 points. It's hard to average 22 points.
Correct.
So shout out to Philon. I think he's made some real improvements. We're going to take one more break. And when we come back on the other side, we are actually going to talk some NBA, a little rookie R.O.I. All right, we are back. Albert, you're here with Corey Tulaba, Albert Gim. We are going to hit Egor Demin for rookie R.O.I, baby. Every show, we are focusing on one rookie to break down their season, talk about how it was going. Egor was a guy that I think you and I were probably higher than the majority of consensus I had him at 5 on my board. Albert, where did you have Egor?
I had him at 4.
Yeah. So we were both pretty high on him. We had the opportunity to see him train pre-draft in LA, see what he was working on, his routine, where his shot was at, which I think is maybe a major part of, what we ultimately talk about and was a major part of his narrative. Egor measured at, 6'8.25 without shoes at the draft. So he's going to be 6'9.5 in shoes. guy who was highlighted by his passing, but the ultimate questions were about his shooting. He has done that this year, Albert.
He has, Corey. And the thing is, when we saw him working out at where was the LMU,
Yeah.
right, for that pre-draft stuff, the thing that you and I talked about so much that I feel like whenever we talked about it, some people like scoffed at the notion of it, but he looked really good, Corey, shooting the ball. Like I felt like the shooting motion was really natural, but beyond that, he was shooting a very confident ball. And everyone can be like, "Well, he's in an empty gym, blah blah blah." But he was taking so many reps. The motion was repeatable. He's shooting them with confidence. They were going in constantly, and I was like, there's no part of my brain that wants to believe that this guy isn't going to at least be a decent shooter because of what I'm seeing right in front of my eyes. We were standing on the court with him, Corey. We were with him while he was breaking down film with pro trainer Zachary Gonzalez. It was a great experience to be in the gym with him, but to see him make all of those shots and to shoot with confidence and to work on NBA level shots, the type of shots that he would be taking in real NBA games, and to now see him producing at this level for the Brooklyn Nets, I don't know. Like I maybe we're crazy, but I want to say that we saw this coming, Corey. And I know a lot of it's easy to say that, but it's like because we saw him putting in the work and we saw him hitting a trillion shots, it's not that hard for us to believe. And I think this new wrinkle, we can say new because he did struggle with the shot in college, but him having this facet to his offensive game, and then to think about how he'll develop in the next 3 years as he grows into his body and into his game and into his handle and into, being comfortable at the NBA level. I think it's going to be really, really great to see his growth, Corey, because there's going to be a lot to what he's going to be able to offer on an NBA floor. And I have more like stats and stuff that I want to get into, but I'll start there just by saying, being in that gym with him, Corey, and seeing the work that he was putting in and to see his growth even in that setting, I think what we're seeing right now on an NBA floor is earned, straight up earned by Egor Demin.
Yeah, we knew Egor had this inside of him. And what I liked about that you said was like, yeah, he was repping it out. It was the NBA type shots that he was taking. Like he wasn't just standing in a corner and having guys pass to him. They were movement shots. Like they were shots that he was going to have to hit at the next level. And I think the reason that we were higher on him, obviously we were, entranced by his like combination of like elite vision and playmaking feel at, nearly 6'10". Like obviously it's anybody who's like that, I think we were going to have a type with. We like to see that because it's rare. It's not something that you see all the time. There's maybe one of them in the draft and maybe not every year. Like Abdallas is very interesting in this coming draft from Virginia Tech for that same reason, right? If Abdallas was 6'4", he's a lot less interesting, right. But he's super interesting because he's tall. Egor is even taller. And I always looked at the form throughout the season, just with the cognizant understanding he's going to have to hone it, but it's super workable. And it's not just the threes. So he's shooting 37% from three this year on 13 threes per 100. The free throw line, he's shooting 88.5% from the free throw line. Now, he does not get to the free throw line all that often. I think he's 23 of 26 right now, something like that. But the upward trajectory of his three-point shot, which are difficult shots, in combination with the fact he's showing touch at the free throw line, and then like he's shooting 42% on guarded catch and shoot looks. So like that's a really good percentage when you are covered. So the shot to me looks awesome. It looks translatable, and it completely reimagines who he is as a player. Because, I think one of the reasons that there were people who were skeptical and were killing the pick when the Nets took him at 8. Reminder that No Ceilings had that pick right on draft night in our mock. The reason that people were skeptical is because they were like, well, he can't shoot. And, he's got these flaws where his ball handling isn't the tightest. And like, if he can't score efficiently, what does it look like? Now it's like, well, he doesn't have to be a point guard. Now he could be Hedo Turkoglu, who wasn't above 50 effective field goal until like his 5th year in the NBA or something. Right now, Egor is a guy, he can bring the ball up. He's going to be able to play on or off the ball. He's going to make use of his passing. He's going to rebound. The defense, which is actually, I think, further ahead than you would have guessed. It just opens up positionally a whole lot. And now it's like Danny Wolf looks great, right? If you put Egor at the 3, Danny Wolf at the 4, hopefully one of the point guards, either Sarif or Traore or whoever maybe they get Peterson in the draft. Maybe they get somebody else somewhere else for that backcourt. And you could start building out something really, really interesting and really cool in Brooklyn. So I like the strategy that Brooklyn took. I like the Egor pick because even with Egor's flaws, which we should talk about, there's a lot to be excited about from his rookie season.
Yeah, Corey. Absolutely. And I want to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty. I did some deep diving into some of the stats and stuff like that. But I want to start here by focusing on the last 10 games. Okay. So I know it's like a smaller sample size, but it's important because the Nets have been playing well in the last 10 games. So last 10 games, the Brooklyn Nets are 2nd in the league in defensive rating. They are really guarding up right now. They're just behind the OKC Thunder. They're 8th in the league in overall net rating. So I took that and I was like, okay, so I want to kind of do a deep dive in terms of how Brooklyn is playing well. In the month of December, their record was 7-4. They're obviously clearly their best month yet. But I took a deeper look into their lineups because I wanted to figure out where are they finding the most success with which players on the floor, blah, blah, blah. So their second most used lineup, this is 15.7 minutes per game, but is there also their highest scoring lineup is Michael Porter Jr., Terrence Mann, Nick Claxton, Noah Clowney, Egor Demin. That's their 5. That is the second most used 5, but also has like the highest offensive, efficiency right now. They're averaging 37.8 points per game with that 5-man lineup. And I think the reason why that 5-man lineup is interesting is because of the type of spacing that you get on the floor when you have Demin with his shooting. Clowney, I know the percentages, I think he's like 32, 33%, but he's getting them up there. He's taking them with confidence, blah, blah, blah. MPJ with the type of season that he has.
Killing it.
Absolutely demolishing right now for the Brooklyn Nets, right? And obviously, because of that, his name is in trade rumors, blah, blah, blah. A lot of contenders are getting interested. Maybe Detroit gets interested. Who knows? Whatever. But then also, they have Terrence Mann on the floor with them, Nick Claxton on the floor with them. With Claxton, you get, the rebounding, the screening, blah, blah, blah. Terrence Mann with his correct grab and go. Terrence Mann with his defensive ability. It's a really nice lineup. But the reason why I wanted to kind of focus here in on this is that where Demin comes in with that lineup that I think is nice is obviously with his floor spreading ability right now also, but also his passing ability. Right. He's able to push the floor, push the pace with them, move the ball around, make quick reads, spray the ball out to Michael Porter Jr. in the corner or Noah Clowney for like an above the break 3. Like he's doing a lot of things where at the same time, he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands a ton. And I think this is somewhere where Brooklyn, they're using him with some wisdom, Corey. Like the thing that I like, 21.8, right. 21.8% assist percentage, right? But also not a huge usage, right? Yeah. They're not throwing him the ball and saying, I need you to be our point guard right now. They're letting him flow, play within the flow, take advantages when they come to him. If they hard close and he can attack those and move the ball, swing, the ball to someone open. Like I like that he's been given this kind of free role without the burden and the pressure of being the primary creator. And I think that's why we're getting this really beautiful version of Demin because, Corey, in the future, if he does end up taking a higher usage role, you'll always know in the back of your mind that he can play this role as well. He can flow with the offense. He can plug holes. He can move the ball with energy. He can find open people with his elite vision. I really like that. And the fact that he's shooting 36.3% from 3, I mean, if he's at or around this level for his whole career, neither of us ever thought he was going to be like a sniper, never thought he was going to be Klay Thompson. But if you get this type of shooting with a guy who can play within the flow of your offense, right? Who you can throw the ball to, he can run ball screens, he can move the ball with vision and anticipation and accuracy. there's a lot to get excited about. And I think right now, looking at the sample size for the Nets and how they've been playing and what they're getting from this 5-man lineup and Yeoman's role in that as both a shooter and connecting piece, this is a really smart and wise decision by Brooklyn to set him up for success. And I think that's something that, Corey, we really need to emphasize, because a lot of times young players who get drafted really high in the lottery, they're not always put into positions to be successful. But with Yeoman specifically, for all the stuff that people want to say about the Brooklyn Nets, blah, 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 Jordi Fernandez and his staff, I think they're pushing all the right buttons with Egor so far, and they've really set him up to be successful in his rookie year for the Nets. And not just this season, but I think they are setting him up for a lot of future success as well by having him play in this role. So I've been really impressed, Corey, by what I've seen from him so far, but I really wanted to give Brooklyn, which is hard for me to say as a lifelong Knicks fan, but Brooklyn deserves a lot of credit for setting him up and putting him in a very specific context to be successful. And I think that 5-man lineup that I mentioned really emphasizes that. It shows us and the fans that Brooklyn cares about his development, and they're going to set him up for success.
Agreed. And some other interesting stats. He's averaging 15.6 potential assists per 100 possessions, which is the 96th percentile in the NBA per data baller. So that playmaking, like the raw numbers, he's averaging like a little over 3 assists per game, something, or maybe like close to 4. It might not pop at you, but the vision and the feel and the way that he sets guys up, he's putting guys in positions so that they could capitalize where they're comfortable. It's just going to be about how often that happens. And right now, when you see him share the floor with some of the more veteran guys rather than the young guys, you see that a little bit more frequently. On the defensive side of the ball, you look at Egor and you go, okay, like this is a guy who people should be able to pick on. But I don't think that you can, because I think he moves fluidly. He's got good length. He's got good cognition of where he should be on the floor, off the ball, or where to make these quick rotations. It's a scram switch, stuff like that, like Xing out, some of the more like nuanced, rotations that you have to make in the NBA. He looks like he's somebody who's going to be able to handle that. I think he's skinny now, but I think his frame, like he's going to get stronger and he's going to be able to, use that strength to his advantage. A couple of games ago, they played the Timberwolves and they tried having Anthony Edwards just get into the paint and kind of bury Egor under the basket. And, Ant is insanely strong, right? But Egor has size on him. And so like he's able to absorb the bump and then just get vertical and use his standing reach and force Ant into a really tough shot that he missed ultimately. So you're not really going to be able to super like take advantage of like even one of his weaknesses right now. He's also averaging 4.1 deflections per 100. So he's getting into like the passing lanes consistently. I think defensively, he's been, for a rookie, really encouraging, and if you can survive, and like you said, he's playing a ton of minutes, the last 10 games, where were they? Second in net rating. In net rating. So like
defensive rating,
yes. Mm-hmm. So that's really encouraging that, your rookie that you took in the top 10, who people have defensive concerns about, is able to hold up and be a part of a system in which is finding success on that end. That's all you could ask for, right? And I think any team will take that because of what he could potentially give you on offense. Now, some of where he's struggling. He's struggling at the rim. He's hovering around 50%. He's around 6'10", right? We know like he came out, he didn't have like a 2-point attempt for his first X amount of games in his rookie season. And people were like, well, he's shooting threes well, but he's not getting to the rim at all. And that stems from, I think, the lack of like handle, which can get a little loose. And sometimes when guys get into him, he's forced to do that thing where he has to turn his back to protect because he can't just like blow by without a screen. But I do love when he does turn his back because he's got this spin move that he's able to utilize where he'll turn off the opposite shoulder and go into space, which I really like. And I'm fine with the amount of screens that he does need because I think he's so good at operating out of them that like that's where I want him. you can create advantages off screens too. You don't need to always go one-on-one. And Yegor is that kind of player where if he's using a ton of screens, that's great. But his 3-point attempt ratio to 2-point attempts to free throw attempts is really poor. And, I think he's got to learn, and he will, to find the balance of how do I get into the paint more often and finish at the rim and create contact, because a lot of times he'll get to the rim and kind of try to avoid the contact. And that's why, he's knocking down his free throws, which is awesome. Super happy about. Shows real growth as a shooter. But he's got to create more contact, and that'll up his overall efficiency, because some of his misses at the rim that he's trying to make harder on himself, he'll just get stronger, more physical, hopefully, and develop into a guy that generates more contact and improves his finishing. It took Josh Giddey a long time to get there. And now he's really good at just playing with that pace, getting downhill and dipping his shoulder into somebody and creating that space for himself. So it might take a few years. I think Yegor will get there. We know that he's a hard worker because we've seen it firsthand. We know he's somebody who absorbs information because we've seen it firsthand. He's got a great personality. He's somebody that teammates would want to play with. He's got a really, he's somebody that you want in your locker room. So I think that, this Yegor pick is looking really great for Brooklyn. I mean, you could definitely say, hey, maybe they should have taken Derek Queen, or maybe they should have taken this player or that player. You're always going to have that. But I think Brooklyn and their vision are very happy with Yegor.
Yeah, Corey. No, 100%. And also, like, you can't make those justifications or, distinctions after 1 year. You got to give these guys time. The only thing I wanted to add, you mentioned the defensive stuff. Like, I mean, it seems like these Real Madrid Academy kids play good defense, whether it's him or Hugo Gonzalez.
Hugo, yeah.
They're going to play defense. And then also the context that he's in playing for Coach Fernandez, there is an emphasis about playing defense. And the fact that, he's playing defense at a high enough level where he's getting the playing time to keep playing. And he's had good games, right? Recently, 20-point game against Philly, 23-point game against the Warriors. Like, he's playing well. He's getting involved. He's getting trusted. A 16-point game against Toronto. And I know I'm just focusing on the scoring, but these are all like aspects of building that trust and building that, experience and reps of him playing in these NBA games. And so to be where he's at, Corey, at this point in the season, I think, man, he's really he's all the optimism that we had for him. I feel like he's really paid it off, and I can't wait to see how this gets even better. And I also feel the concerns that you brought up very fair, and these are the concerns that we had for him even when we did our evals on him, right? Like, the handle can be a little bit loose right now, and he's got to continue to grow into his body. That's not a finished thing, right? He has to continue to add mass and get stronger and gain his old man strength. So to your point about when you talked about Giddey and Turkoglu, to think about what Dioman might look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, could be terrifying. Or he legitimately might be one of the better or one of the best players in the league. With his ability and that's the thing we look for, right? Guys with elite skill sets, and his elite ability to read and scan and to pass the ball. I think he's going to be able to leverage that into a lot. And as he continues to work on the other facets of his game, you can't help but be excited. So to your point, Brooklyn, I really agree with this pick, but also I really agree with how they're developing him, and I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Yeah, he's been a ton of fun to watch, and especially under this situation with Jordy, his staff, how they're handling him, their ups, their downs. That is life as a rookie, for sure. All right, Albert. What an episode we had. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody who has been watching live. Thank you to everybody who is in the chat. Let's run through a couple of questions that we've got from everybody in the chat. Let's see. We have a question about Jaden Quaintance somewhere. Somebody asked to sell the pen. So we have Charlie Boltman 7334 says sell the pen. Jaden Quaintance played 30 minutes. People putting him in the top 5. So I think the sell with Quaintance, why he's been a top 5 guy last year, as a 17-year-old freshman who was not draft eligible due to age, had like a freakishly effective defensive season, and that defensive potential is scary. He flashed a lot of interesting things on offense during that season, but Arizona State was not a very conducive team to having like that kind of success. They didn't always put him in the position to shoot the right shots. We'll see if Kentucky does a better job of that. But the passing, some of the handle flashes, there's a lot of interesting tools. I don't know if the shot ever gets there. He was shooting them last year, but there's a lot of interesting tools. I know he's listed at 6'10.5" now for Kentucky. So if he legit grew, then that's great. Seeing him in person, like on the court, he didn't play in the game that I went to see Kentucky, but I did see him like pregame. I don't know if he's 6'10.5", but he's got like a ridiculously freakish wingspan. He's got a physical frame that he's going to grow into. And it's just one of these things where like he might just be so impactful defensively with his ability to switch on the perimeter and protect the rim that even if the offense never fully develops past just like dump off, rim running, offensive rebound, he's going to be unbelievably effective.
Yeah, Corey, I second all of that. I think with him, to your point, like, and we just talked about it with Demin, right? If you have an elite skill, you've got to kind of take the bet here. And with him, like his elite skill just happens to be he's an absolute nightmare and terror on the defensive end of the floor with his length and size and strength and all that stuff. You can't help but be excited. And then on the offensive end of the floor, that's going to be like a commitment type of thing where you're really committing to the development of that, where he's not like super polished offensively or anything like that, but you're buying into the defense and saying, I'm going to invest in his offense type of thing. So the tools and like the baseline stuff that you get with him as a defender is so terrifying, and why you push him into this conversation.
Yeah. We have a question from Jay from East New York. Shout out New York. A couple of New Yorkers on the show. Thoughts on Cal Poly's Hamad Musa. Now, this is a guy that we saw at Hoop Summit a few years ago. He had just come off like a really impressive Basketball Without Borders where he was like one of the best guys there. He didn't have the same experience at Hoop Summit. He was a little underwhelming. We saw how frail he was, but you could see like tall guy, skinny, shot maker, interesting ball handler. Like you could see the set of tools. I haven't watched enough Cal Poly this year to talk about his leap, but I know Peter Bandel has been really good there. Musa is averaging like 20 points per game. He's definitely, there's some interesting stuff that makes me go, okay, let me go check it out. Now he's got a lot of time. Like he barely played last year at Dayton. So this year he's getting a little bit more opportunity in the Big West. The shooting splits look good. 46%, 42 from 3, 84% from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 2 assists per game. Defensive numbers look So he's somebody I've been meaning to check out for sure. But he's also not this isn't the first time I've heard his name be thrown around, and he's a guy that's definitely on radars considering, his pre-college sample. So for sure, interesting. All right, that will do it for this episode of the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show. Appreciate everybody watching, listening, rocking with us week in, week out. We will be back next week. We got a lot of fun content planned. So make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff at No Ceilings NBA. www.noceilingsnba.com for our written work. Until next time, y'all, we are out. Peace.